Hello, and welcome back to another journey through the colors of life, a series where we explore the remarkable stories, science, and beauty hidden within the colors that paint our world. Tonight, we turn our attention to the color red, a color that has shaped human history, inspired countless artists, and touches your life in ways you may have never considered. Over the next 100 minutes, we'll discover how this color appears in nature, how it affects your mind and body, and how civilizations have treasured it, fought over it, and woven it into culture itself. But before we begin, if you want us to cover a topic you like, leave a comment below. If you enjoy this video, consider giving it a like. And also subscribe to our channel so that you always know when the next video is released. By doing this, you help us not only grow, but continue to make content just like this. Thank you. Whether this is your first time joining us or you've traveled through other colors before, I invite you to settle in, close your eyes if you wish, and simply listen. Let the facts wash over you like gentle waves. There's no need to remember everything. Just allow yourself to drift through the story of the color red and let it carry you peacefully toward rest. So take a deep breath, let the day fall away, and let's begin our exploration of the color red together. Long before written language, before cities or agriculture, our ancestors had a word for red. In fact, red was the very first color that humans gave a name to, after the basic concepts of light and dark. Anthropologists have discovered that across virtually every culture and language family on Earth, if a language has only 3 color terms, they are always black, white, and red. This isn't a coincidence. Red was essential to survival. It was the color of blood, the color of life itself, and the color of danger. Red ochre, humanity's first pigment. Our relationship with red goes back at least 100,000 years. In the Blombos Cave of South Africa, archaeologists discovered containers of red ochre, a natural earth pigment made from iron oxide, carefully stored by early humans. This makes red ochre the oldest known pigment ever used by our species. But why did our ancestors value this earthy red powder so deeply? They ground it, mixed it with fat and bone marrow, and used it to paint their bodies, their tools, and eventually the walls of caves. Red ochre wasn't just decoration. Many anthropologists believe it held spiritual significance, perhaps representing life force or marking important rituals. In a way, humanity's first artistic impulse was red. The caves of Lascaux and Altamira. Fast forward tens of thousands of years to the painted caves of Europe. In Lascaux, France, and Altamira, Spain, prehistoric artists created breathtaking images of animals on cave walls. And there, among the browns and blacks, red ochre appears again, bringing the animals to life. These ancient painters used red to depict blood from wounded prey, to highlight certain figures, and to create depth in their compositions. The red pigment has lasted over 17,000 years, still vibrant on those stone canvases. When you see these paintings today, you're looking at the same red that flickered in torchlight as Ice Age humans gathered in those sacred spaces. Red connected them to their world, just as it connects us to ours. Red in ancient Egypt, the color of life and chaos. As civilizations emerged, red took on complex meanings. In ancient Egypt, red was a color of contradictions. It represented life itself, associated with the life-giving sun god Ra, but it also symbolized chaos and destruction, linked to Set, the god of storms and disorder. Egyptian women painted their lips and cheeks with red ochre mixed with fat, one of the earliest forms of cosmetics. Scribes used red ink to highlight important passages in papyrus texts, much like we use red for warnings today. The Egyptians understood something profound. Red commands attention. It cannot be ignored. This duality, this power of red to mean both life and danger, protection and warning, would echo through every culture that followed. Essentially, and the red in our blood, the red that made this color so vital to human consciousness, that's iron too. Hemoglobin, the protein in our red blood cells that carries oxygen throughout our body, gets its crimson color from iron atoms at its core. When you see red blood, you're seeing iron reacting with oxygen. In a very real way, we carry red within us. Every heartbeat pumps that red through our veins. We are, in our essence, connected to the same element that colored humanity's first paintings on cave walls. Why we see red, the science of long wavelengths. Red light has the longest wavelength of all the visible colors, measuring about 700 nanometers. This physical property makes red special. Long wavelengths scatter less in the atmosphere, which is why red can travel farther than other colors and remain visible through fog, dust, or haze. This is exactly why we use red for stop signs, brake lights, and warning signals. It's not just convention or tradition. Red is literally the most visible color across long distances and in poor conditions. Evolution shaped our eyes to be especially sensitive to red, perhaps because detecting the red of blood, fire, or poisonous creatures could mean the difference between life and death. Red speaks to something primal in our visual system, a language older than words.
These first 6 facts have taken us from the caves of our ancestors to the science of light itself. We've seen how red has been intertwined with human existence from our very beginning, how it represents both the life that flows through us and the dangers we must heed. As you relax and continue listening, we'll explore how different cultures gave red meaning, how empires rose and fell over access to red dyes, and how this powerful color shapes your emotions and decisions every single day. But for now, simply breathe and reflect on this ancient color that has painted humanity's story for 100,000 years.
Tyrian purple's red origins. Here's something surprising. The most famous purple of the ancient world started with red. Tyrian purple, the legendary dye reserved for emperors and kings, was actually harvested from Mediterranean sea snails. But the Phoenicians who discovered this dye around 1500 BCE first noticed something else in these mollusks, a deep, rich red. By carefully controlling the dyeing process and using different species of murex snails, they could produce shades ranging from deep crimson to royal purple. The red varieties were prized almost as highly as the purple. It took approximately 12,000 snails to produce just 1.4 grams of dye. This made red and purple fabrics worth more than gold. Entire Phoenician cities built their wealth on these tiny sea creatures and the reds and purples they could extract from them. Kermes, the red worth its weight in silver. While the Phoenicians harvested the sea, other ancient peoples looked to the land. Kermes, a brilliant scarlet dye, came from the dried bodies of scale insects that lived on Mediterranean oak trees. The ancient Persians, Greeks, and Romans all treasured this color. The word crimson itself comes from Kermes. These tiny insects, barely visible to the naked eye, were so valuable that they were traded across continents. A pound of Kermes-dyed cloth could cost as much as a pound of silver. Imagine microscopic insects creating a color so captivating that kingdoms built trade routes to obtain it. For nearly 3,000 years, Kermes red adorned the robes of high priests, the garments of nobility, and the ceremonial dress of those who held power. Vermilion, the toxic beauty. Not all reds came from living creatures. The ancient Chinese, as early as 4000 BCE, discovered how to create a synthetic red pigment called vermilion, made from mercury and sulfur. This bright, almost glowing red became central to Chinese art, culture, and ceremony. Vermilion was used to paint palaces, write important documents, and create the signature red seals that authenticated official papers. Even today, Chinese seal stamps use red ink as a continuation of this ancient tradition. But vermilion held a dark secret. Mercury is highly toxic. The artisans who ground the pigment and the painters who applied it often suffered poisoning, tremors, and early death. Beauty came at a price, yet the allure of that perfect, luminous red was so powerful that people continued to make and use vermilion for thousands of years, despite knowing the risks. Cochineal, the New World's red gold. When Spanish conquistadors arrived in the Americas in the early 1500s, they found the Aztec and Maya peoples wearing textiles of a red so vivid it seemed impossible. This was cochineal, a dye made from insects that lived on prickly pear cacti. The red was more brilliant, more color-fast, and more beautiful than anything Europe had ever seen. The Spanish immediately recognized its value. Cochineal became Mexico's second most valuable export after silver. The exact method of its production was kept as a closely guarded secret for nearly 300 years. European dyers received the dried insects but had no idea what creature produced them or how they were cultivated. This tiny insect, Dactylopius coccus, reshaped the global textile trade. The British monarchy's red coats, the Cardinals' robes in the Vatican, the art of Vermeer and Rubens all glowed with the red of cochineal.
Red in the human brain. Why it makes us feel. Now let's return to the science of red, but this time inside your own mind. Studies have shown that exposure to the color red triggers measurable physiological responses in humans. Your heart rate can increase slightly. Your blood pressure may rise. Time seems to pass more quickly when you're in a red environment compared to a blue one. This isn't imagination, it's neurochemistry. Red activates the sympathetic nervous system, the part of your body responsible for the fight or flight response. Restaurants use red in their decor because it stimulates appetite and creates a sense of urgency. Casinos use red to make gamblers feel excited and more willing to take risks. Even reading the word red or seeing the color for a fraction of a second can prime your brain for alertness and attention. This color reaches into your ancient parts of the brain, the parts you share with your distant ancestors who needed to spot red berries, red blood, and red warnings to survive. Red doesn't just exist in the world, it exists in the architecture of your nervous system.
We've now traveled through millennia of human obsession with red. We've seen how insects and snails, chemistry and trade shaped the world's relationship with this color. We've discovered that red is both ancient and immediate, both in historical artifacts and in the firing of neurons in your brain at this very moment. In our next segment, we'll explore how red appears in the natural world, from the depths of the ocean to the canopy of autumn forests, and why nature itself has chosen red for some of its most important messages. But for now, let your thoughts drift. Rest in the knowledge that red has colored human civilization from its very beginning and continues to pulse through our world today. Welcome to the third part of our journey through red. We've explored humanity's ancient relationship with this color, how civilizations traded fortunes for it, and how it affects the deepest parts of our minds. Now, let's step outside. Let's discover how nature itself uses red and what messages this color carries in the living world around us. Close your eyes if you wish. Breathe slowly and imagine the reds of nature. Red in the autumn forest. Every autumn, millions of trees perform one of nature's most spectacular displays. Leaves that were green throughout spring and summer suddenly transform into brilliant reds, oranges, and yellows. But this isn't just beauty for its own sake, it's chemistry and survival. The red colors come from anthocyanins, pigments that trees actually produce in autumn, using precious energy even as they prepare for winter dormancy. Scientists believe trees create these red pigments as a form of sunscreen, protecting the leaves as they break down chlorophyll and retrieve valuable nutrients to store for winter. Some research suggests the red may also serve as a warning to insects, signaling that these leaves are well defended and not worth attacking. So when you see a forest ablaze with red in October, you're watching millions of trees making calculated decisions about resource management and chemical defense. The beauty is real, but it's also strategic. Red flowers and the language of pollinators. Walk through a garden and notice which flowers draw your eye first. Often they're red. But here's something fascinating. Bees, the world's most important pollinators, cannot see red. To a bee's eyes, a red flower looks black or gray, blending into the dark background of leaves. So why do red flowers exist? Because red flowers aren't for bees, they're for hummingbirds. These tiny hovering jewels have excellent color vision, and they can see red beautifully. Red flowers produce copious nectar and have evolved deep tubular shapes perfect for a hummingbird's long beak. The red color is essentially a sign that says this flower is for birds, not insects. In tropical regions, many red flowers are pollinated by birds, bats, or even small mammals. Red is nature's way of targeting specific pollinators, an advertisement written in a frequency that only certain eyes can read. If you're still with us, and if you want us to cover a topic you like, leave a comment below. If you enjoy this video, consider giving it a like, and also subscribe to our channel so that you always know when the next video is released. By doing this, you help us not only grow, but continue to make content just like this. Thank you. Warning signals. Red means danger. Red in nature isn't always an invitation. Just as often, it's a warning. poison dart frogs display brilliant red patterns on their skin, advertising their toxicity. The red and black stripes of coral snakes tell predators, "Stay away." Certain caterpillars sport red spines that signal they're unpalatable or dangerous. This is called aposematism, the use of bright colors to warn predators. And across countless species, from insects to amphibians to even some birds and mammals, red is one of the most common warning colors. It's effective because it's so visible, so impossible to miss or ignore. Interestingly, some harmless species have evolved to mimic these red warning patterns, a deceptive costume that keeps them safe even though they lack any real defenses. Red in the natural world is a language of honesty and deception both, a signal system that predators and prey have negotiated over millennia. Red in the deep ocean. Here's something counterintuitive. In the deep ocean, red becomes invisible. Remember that red light has the longest wavelength? Water absorbs red wavelengths very quickly. Just 30 feet below the surface, red light has almost entirely disappeared, filtered out by the water above. This means that red marine creatures, like certain species of fish, shrimp, and jellyfish, appear black in their natural habitat. They're essentially invisible to predators. Some deep-sea creatures have even evolved red bioluminescence. They produce their own red light, which they alone can see, creating a private communication channel that other species can't detect. It's remarkable. The same color that's a danger signal on land becomes a cloak of invisibility in the ocean. Red shifts its meaning depending on where you are, what medium the light travels through, what eyes are watching. The Red Planet, Mars and Human Dreams. Let's expand our view even further, beyond Earth entirely. Mars, our planetary neighbor, has been called the Red Planet for as long as humans have watched the night sky. Ancient civilizations noticed this red wandering star and often associated it with war, blood, and conflict. The Romans named it Mars after their god of war. The ancient Egyptians called it Her-Desher, meaning the Red One. But Mars isn't red because of blood or fire. It's red because of rust. The Martian surface is rich in iron oxide, the same compound that made red ochre, the same element that colors our blood. Mars is in essence a planet-sized deposit of the very first pigment humanity ever used. Today, as we send rovers to explore Mars and dream of human missions to its surface, we're drawn to this red world. Perhaps there's something poetic about it, that the first color we named, the first pigment we cherished, exists in abundance on the planet that may be humanity's next home. Red connects our past to our future, from cave walls to distant worlds. We've now journeyed through red in nature, from autumn forests to the ocean depths, from the flowers in your garden to a neighboring planet millions of miles away. We've seen how red can mean come here or stay away, how it can be a gift or a warning, visible or invisible depending on the light and the eyes that perceive it. Red is woven into the fabric of the natural world, serving countless purposes, telling countless stories. And in our next segment, we'll return to human culture, exploring how different societies have understood red, what it symbolizes in religion and ritual, and how it continues to shape our emotions and decisions every day. But for now, simply rest and reflect on the red world around you. The autumn leaves, the cardinal in the tree, the strawberries, the sunset, all speaking in shades of the same ancient color. Red in Chinese culture, the color of joy. In Chinese culture, red is the color of happiness, prosperity, and good fortune. This association goes back thousands of years, rooted in ancient legends. One story tells of a monster named Nyan who terrorized villages every new year until people discovered the creature feared the color red. They hung red lanterns, wore red clothes, and set off firecrackers wrapped in red paper. The monster fled, and red became forever associated with protection and celebration. Even today, Chinese weddings are awash in red. Brides wear red dresses. Red envelopes filled with money are given as gifts. Red decorations adorn homes during the Lunar New Year. To give someone a gift wrapped in red is to wish them joy. To wear red is to invite good luck into your life. In the West, we often associate red with danger or passion, but in China, red means welcome, celebration, the warmth of family gathered together. The same color, different stories, different meanings woven into the fabric of culture. The Red Bindi, a mark of the divine. In Hindu tradition, many women wear a red dot or mark on their foreheads, known as a bindi. This small circle of red holds layers of meaning. It represents the third eye, the point of spiritual awakening and intuition. It's placed where the sixth chakra resides, the energy center associated with wisdom and consciousness. Red kumkum powder or paste is used to create the bindi, and red is chosen because it symbolizes energy, honor, and the feminine principle of Shakti. Married women traditionally wear red bindis as a sign of matrimony and devotion. During religious ceremonies, red kumkum is offered to deities and applied to the foreheads of worshippers as a blessing. That tiny red mark carries within it concepts of divinity, marriage, energy, and enlightenment. It's a reminder that red, placed intentionally, can be a doorway to the sacred, a visible symbol of invisible truths. Cardinals and red in Christian symbolism. In Christianity, red holds profound significance. It represents the blood of Christ, sacrifice, and divine love. During Pentecost, church vestments are red, symbolizing the flames of the Holy Spirit descending upon the apostles. Martyrs are commemorated with red, honoring those who shed their blood for their faith. And then there are the cardinals of the Catholic Church, whose red robes and distinctive red hats announce their high rank. The red is meant to signify their willingness to shed their own blood in defense of the faith, following Christ's example. When a cardinal walks into a room, that flowing red immediately conveys authority, tradition, and spiritual commitment. Red thread runs through Christian art for 2 millennia, in paintings of the crucifixion, in the robes of saints, in stained glass windows where red light falls across stone floors like grace made visible. Red is suffering and love intertwined, the cost of redemption made color. Red ochre in Indigenous Australian ceremonies. We began this journey with red ochre, humanity's first pigment. Let's return to it now, but in a living tradition. For Aboriginal Australians, red ochre has been sacred for over 60,000 years, an unbroken tradition longer than any other continuous culture on Earth. Red ochre is used in ceremonies, in body painting, in rock art that tells the stories of the dream time. Different sites produce ochre of different qualities and shades, and certain ochres are so sacred they can only be gathered by specific people under specific conditions. The ochre connects the people to their ancestors, to the land, to the stories that explain existence itself. When an Aboriginal person paints themselves with red ochre for a ceremony, they're participating in a ritual their ancestors performed for countless generations. The red on their skin is not decoration, it's connection, it's memory. It's the land itself, ground into powder and mixed with the past. Some things don't change. Some reds remain sacred across tens of thousands of years.
Red envelopes and the gift of good fortune. Let's return to a more everyday magic, the tradition of red envelopes, or hongbao in Chinese, lai si in Cantonese. During Lunar New Year, weddings, and other celebrations, money is given in bright red envelopes decorated with gold characters expressing wishes for prosperity, longevity, or happiness. But the money itself isn't really the point. It's the red envelope that matters. The red wards off evil spirits and brings good luck to both the giver and receiver. Children eagerly collect red envelopes from relatives. Employers give them to employees. Even in our digital age, people send virtual red envelopes through phone apps, preserving the tradition in pixels and code. There's something beautiful in this. The idea that wrapping a gift in red multiplies its blessing, transforms a simple transaction into an exchange of good wishes. Red becomes the container for hope, the wrapper around our desires for those we love to prosper and be happy.
Red string of fate. In East Asian mythology, there's a beautiful belief about red and destiny. The gods tie an invisible red string around the ankles of those who are destined to meet, help each other, or fall in love. The string may stretch or tangle, but it will never break. You are connected to certain people by this red thread of fate, and eventually, inevitably, you will find each other. This legend appears in Chinese, Japanese, and Korean folklore with slight variations, but the red string remains constant. It's a comforting thought that the most important connections in your life are already woven into the universe, waiting to be discovered. That you and the people you love most were always connected by red, even before you met. Red, in this telling, is not just passion or warning or celebration. Red is connection itself, the invisible thread that ties soul to soul across time and distance. Perhaps the most optimistic thing ever said about color, that there exists a red that binds us to our destiny, to the people we're meant to know. We've traveled through red in the spiritual realm now, seen how it marks the divine, protects against evil, celebrates joy, honors sacrifice, and even ties people to their fate. Red in human culture is never just a color. It's always meaning, always intention, always story. In our next segment, we'll explore red in more recent history, how it shaped fashion and power, how it became a symbol of revolution and rebellion, and how the modern world has commercialized and transformed this ancient color for new purposes. But here, in this moment, simply rest with the idea that red has carried human hopes and fears, celebrations and sorrows for as long as we've been able to name what we see. Synthetic red. the Aniline Revolution. For thousands of years, every red dye came from nature, from insects, roots, minerals, or mollusks. Then, in 1856, an 18-year-old chemist named William Henry Perkin accidentally created the first synthetic dye while trying to synthesize quinine. Though his first discovery was purple, it opened the door to an entirely new world. Within decades, chemists had created synthetic reds that were brighter, more color-fast, and infinitely cheaper than anything nature could provide. No more crushing thousands of cochineal insects, no more dangerous mercury compounds. Red could be manufactured in factories in any quantity desired. This changed everything. Suddenly, red clothing became affordable for ordinary people. Red became democratized. The color that once marked emperors and cardinals could be worn by factory workers and shop clerks. In a way, synthetic chemistry completed a revolution that politics had started, making red available to everyone, regardless of status or wealth. Red lipstick and women's liberation. In the early 1900s, red lipstick became a symbol of independence and rebellion. Victorian morality held that respectable women should look natural and demure. Makeup was for actresses and women of questionable reputation. But as women fought for the right to vote, many suffragettes deliberately wore bright red lipstick as an act of defiance. In 1912, Elizabeth Arden famously handed out red lipstick to suffragettes marching in New York. It was a declaration: we will be seen, we will be heard, we will not be invisible. During World War II, red lipstick became patriotic, a symbol of maintaining femininity and morale during dark times. Hitler reportedly hated red lipstick, which only made Allied women wear it more proudly. That small tube of red cosmetic carried enormous meaning: autonomy over one's own body, refusal to submit to others' expectations, the right to be bold and visible. Red on the lips became red in the revolution of women claiming their own power. Coca-Cola and the commercialization of red. In 1886, a pharmacist in Atlanta created a new soft drink. The syrup was brown, unremarkable, but the company that formed around it made a brilliant decision. They would make red their signature color. By the early 1900s, Coca-Cola's red logo was appearing on signs, in advertisements, on delivery trucks. The company understood something fundamental about red. It grabs attention, creates urgency, stimulates appetite and excitement. That red became so ubiquitous that Coca-Cola essentially claimed ownership of a particular shade. Their red is instantly recognizable worldwide, seen by billions of people. Some say Coca-Cola even influenced our image of Santa Claus, whose red suit in modern depictions matches their brand perfectly. Whether or not that's entirely true, it shows the power of commercial red, how a corporation could take this ancient, sacred, powerful color and make it represent a fizzy beverage, create such a strong association that you can't think of that particular red without thinking of the brand. Red had been many things throughout history. By the 20th century, it could be intellectual property, a color trademarked, owned, defended in court. If you're still with us, and if you want us to cover a topic you like, leave a comment below. If you enjoy this video, consider giving it a like. And also subscribe to our channel so that you always know when the next video is released. By doing this, you help us not only grow, but continue to make content just like this. Thank you.
Red carpet, the path to glory. But let's end this segment on something more glamorous. The red carpet has become synonymous with celebrity, prestige, and special occasions. But this tradition is much older than Hollywood. Ancient Greek playwright Aeschylus, writing in 458 BCE, described a red or purple carpet laid for King Agamemnon, a luxury so extravagant it was almost sacrilegious. The modern red carpet tradition began in 1902 when the New York Central Railroad rolled out a red carpet for passengers boarding its 20th Century Limited train. Hollywood adopted the practice for movie premieres in the 1920s, and it became the standard symbol of glamour and importance. Today, walking the red carpet means you've arrived. You're somebody worth photographing, worth watching. That length of red fabric transforms an ordinary sidewalk into a threshold between the everyday and the extraordinary. Red elevates. Red announces. Red says, this moment matters. This person matters. Pay attention. From ancient kings to modern celebrities, red beneath the feet has always meant the same thing. You are walking on something special, towards something significant. Red marks the path to glory.
We've now explored how red transformed in the modern era, democratized by chemistry, commercialized by corporations, woven into the fabric of 20th century life in ways both liberating and oppressive. Red adapted to modernity, took on new meanings while never quite losing its ancient resonance. Now, to the natural world, but with a deeper lens. Let's look at red at different scales, from the microscopic to the cosmic. What happens when we examine red more closely? What do we discover when we look at the mechanisms, the processes, the intricate systems that create and use this color? Breathe deeply, let your mind expand, and let's explore red from new perspectives. Red blood cells, life's delivery system. Inside your body right now, roughly 25 trillion red blood cells are flowing through your veins and arteries. Each one is a tiny disc-shaped container packed with hemoglobin, that iron-based protein we discussed earlier. These cells live only about 120 days before they're broken down and recycled, which means your body is constantly creating millions of new red blood cells every second. Without them, you would die within minutes. They carry oxygen from your lungs to every cell in your body and carry carbon dioxide back to be exhaled. Every breath you take, every thought you think, every movement you make depends on these microscopic red couriers completing their rounds. You are alive because red flows through you, not metaphorically, literally. Your consciousness, your ability to hear these words right now, exists because of red blood cells delivering oxygen to your brain. In a very real sense, you are red, a being whose life depends on this color circulating endlessly through the network of your body. Why sunsets are red? When the sun is high in the sky, it appears yellow or white, but as it sinks toward the horizon, it transforms into brilliant reds and oranges. This isn't because the sun itself changes. It's because of the journey its light takes through our atmosphere. Sunlight contains all colors, but blue light has a shorter wavelength and scatters easily when it hits air molecules. During the day, this scattered blue light colors the whole sky. But at sunset, sunlight travels much more atmosphere to reach your eyes, and all that extra air scatters away the blues and greens, leaving only the longer red and orange wavelengths to paint the sky. So when you watch a red sunset, you're seeing a color that survived the longest journey, light that traveled 93 million miles from the sun, then hundreds of miles through Earth's atmosphere, filtered by the very air you breathe. Red is what remains, what persists, what reaches you at the end of the day. There's poetry in that, perhaps. Red as the color of endurance. Red giants, the future of our sun. Let's extend our view even further to the life cycle of stars themselves. In about 5 billion years, our sun will exhaust its hydrogen fuel and begin burning helium. When this happens, it will expand dramatically, becoming what astronomers call a red giant, swelling so large it may engulf Mercury, Venus, and possibly Earth. Red giants are cooler than younger stars like our current sun, which is why they appear red rather than white or blue. Despite being cooler, they're enormous. Some red giants are hundreds of times larger than our sun. They represent old age in stellar terms, the twilight phase before a star sheds its outer layers and becomes a white dwarf. Many of the brightest stars in our night sky are red giants: Betelgeuse in Orion, Aldebaran in Taurus, Arcturus in Boötes. When you see these red stars, you're looking at the future, at what our sun will become, at the inevitable transformation that awaits all stars of a certain size. Red in the cosmos means endings, but also the final brilliant display before the fade. Now for something truly cosmic. When astronomers look at distant galaxies, they notice something remarkable. The light from these galaxies is shifted toward the red end of the spectrum. This is called redshift, and it tells us something profound about the universe. As galaxies move away from us, the light waves they emit get stretched out, shifting to longer wavelengths, shifting toward red. The faster a galaxy moves away, the more its light is redshifted. This discovery, made in the 1920s, provided the first evidence that our universe is expanding, that space itself is stretching, carrying galaxies away from each other. So red in this context means distance and motion. The more red the light, the farther away and faster receding the source. Some galaxies are so distant and moving so fast that their visible light is redshifted all the way into the infrared, beyond what our eyes can see. Red becomes the signature of cosmic expansion, the color that tells us the universe has been growing since the Big Bang and will continue growing forever.
red meat and human evolution. The term red meat refers to meat that appears red when raw, primarily due to myoglobin, a protein similar to hemoglobin that stores oxygen in muscle tissue. Beef, lamb, venison, these are red meats. Chicken and fish with less myoglobin are white meat. But there's an evolutionary story here. Some anthropologists believe that eating red meat played a crucial role in human brain development. Meat provides concentrated protein and fats that are expensive to obtain but incredibly nutritious. When our ancestors began regularly eating meat about 2.5 million years ago, they gained access to calories that could support larger, more energy-hungry brains. Cooking meat made it even more digestible, extracting more nutrition. The control of fire, the hunting of game, the consumption of red meat, these may have been essential steps in becoming human as we know ourselves today. Red meat might have literally built the brain you're using to understand these words. Of course, our relationship with red meat is now complicated by health concerns, environmental impact, and ethical considerations. But for millions of years, red meant sustenance, meant survival, meant the difference between thriving and merely existing.
Red in stop signs and traffic lights. Here's something so ubiquitous you probably never question it. Why do we use red for stop signs and traffic lights? We've mentioned red's visibility, but the history is interesting. Early traffic signals in the 1920s used red for stop because railroad signals had already established this convention, and railroads chose red because it was the color of danger flags used for centuries. But there was a problem. Early red traffic lights used red glass filters over white lights, and the red dyes in the glass would sometimes fade, allowing white light through, which looked like a go signal. This caused accidents. Engineers eventually solved this by using better materials and eventually LED lights that produce pure red light without filters. Today, red traffic lights are so standardized that the exact shade of red is specified in international standards. When you stop at a red light, you're participating in a global system of visual communication, one where red has been carefully engineered, tested, and codified to keep you safe. Red quite literally prevents chaos on the roads. It creates order from potential collision. That simple red light you barely notice might save your life a dozen times a week. We've now zoomed from the microscopic red blood cells inside you, through red sunsets and red stars, to the redshift of expanding galaxies, and back to the red lights that govern our daily movement. Red exists at every scale of existence, in your blood, in the sky, in distant stars, in the signs that guide you safely home. We've explored red in nature, in culture, in the cosmos itself. Now let's enter the world of human creativity, the realm where red becomes art. How have painters struggled with red? What does it mean to create with this color? How has red shaped visual expression across centuries? Settle in, close your eyes if you wish, and let's discover red through the eyes of artists.
The Renaissance quest for perfect red. Renaissance painters were obsessed with red. They needed it for the robes of cardinals, for the blood of Christ, for the garments of wealthy patrons. But achieving the perfect red was extraordinarily difficult and expensive. The finest red came from grinding imported Kermes insects or cinnabar, mercury sulfide, both costly and labor-intensive. Painters like Titian became famous for their reds. Titian's reds were so rich, so luminous, so perfectly balanced between warmth and depth that people spoke of Titian red as its own category. He layered glazes of different red pigments, building up translucent veils of color that seemed to glow from within. Other artists couldn't afford such expensive pigments. Sometimes they would use red only for the most important figures in a painting, reserving the precious color for Christ or the Virgin Mary or a patron saint. The presence of rich red in a painting wasn't just aesthetic, it was an economic statement, a demonstration that this artwork deserved the finest, most costly materials. Red was prestige made visible. Cadmium Red, a dangerous innovation. In 1910, German chemists developed cadmium red, a synthetic pigment of extraordinary brilliance and permanence. Artists were thrilled. Here was a red that didn't fade, didn't darken, held its intensity over time. Expressionists like Matisse embraced it. Modern painters built their palettes around it. But there was a problem. Cadmium is toxic. Painters who carelessly handled the pigment, who licked their brushes or breathed its dust, faced serious health risks. Even today, cadmium pigments require careful handling. Some countries have restricted or banned their use in certain applications. Yet artists continue to use cadmium red because nothing else quite matches it. That particular, vibrant, warm, powerful red cannot be perfectly replicated by safer alternatives. So painters make a choice: to work with a dangerous substance in pursuit of a color that speaks to them, that expresses what they need to express. Beauty and danger, once again, bound together in red. If you're still with us, and if you want us to cover a topic you like, leave a comment below. If you enjoy this video, consider giving it a like. And also subscribe to our channel so that you always know when the next video is released. By doing this, you help us not only grow, but continue to make content just like this. Thank you. Mark Rothko's red paintings. Abstract expressionist Mark Rothko created some of the most emotionally powerful paintings of the 20th century. Large canvases with soft-edged rectangles of color that seemed to float and breathe. Many of his most famous works feature red, sometimes warm and enveloping, sometimes dark and foreboding. Rothko believed his paintings weren't about color theory or formal composition. They were about basic human emotions: tragedy, ecstasy, doom, rapture. When he painted with red, he was painting emotion itself. Standing before a large Rothko red painting, viewers often report feeling overwhelmed. Some weep, some feel joy, some feel an indefinable sense of presence. Rothko was particular about how his works were displayed. He wanted them in intimate spaces with low light, where viewers could stand close and be enveloped. He wanted the red to surround you, to become your environment. Near the end of his life, his reds became darker, almost black. Red like dried blood, like something burning down to embers. He died in 1970, and those final dark reds read like prophecy.
Red on canvas became red in the soul, became emotion given form. The Red Shoes, Art and Obsession. In 1948, British filmmakers Michael Powell and Emmerich Pressburger created The Red Shoes, a movie about a ballerina torn between love and art. The film's centerpiece is a 15-minute ballet sequence shot in glorious Technicolor, where the dancer performs while wearing enchanted red ballet shoes. The red shoes in the film are based on a Hans Christian Andersen fairy tale about shoes that force the wearer to dance until they die. In the movie, the red symbolizes passion, ambition, art, obsession, the consuming nature of creative devotion. The red is so vivid, so saturated, it seems to pulse with its own life. The Red Shoes influenced generations of filmmakers. Martin Scorsese called it his favorite film. Directors learned how red could be used not just as a color, but as a character, as a force that drives narrative and emotion. Those red shoes weren't just footwear, they were desire, they were a calling, they were the price of art made visible. Red as metaphor for everything we want so badly it might destroy us. Red in Japanese woodblock prints. Japanese woodblock prints, particularly from the 18th and 19th centuries, feature some of the most striking uses of red in art history. Artists like Hokusai and Hiroshige used red seals, red cartouches, red garments, and red skies to create compositions of extraordinary balance and power. One red pigment, safflower red, or beni, was particularly prized. It produced a translucent, delicate pink red used for women's lips and clothing in prints. The pigment was expensive and difficult to print, requiring special techniques. Another red, derived from mercury sulfide, gave the bold, opaque reds seen in cartouches and seals. When these prints reached Europe in the late 1800s, they revolutionized Western art. Impressionists and post-impressionists were stunned by the bold use of color, the flat areas of red, the way Japanese artists weren't afraid to let red dominate a composition. Van Gogh collected Japanese prints and incorporated their red sensibilities into his own work. Red crossed oceans, red as cultural exchange, red as the bridge between artistic traditions. Anish Kapoor and the Reddest Red. In recent years, British Indian artist Anish Kapoor created controversy by securing exclusive rights to use Vantablack, one of the darkest substances ever created. In response, another artist, Stuart Semple, created the pinkest pink and made it available to everyone except Anish Kapoor. This sparked a color war in the art world. Semple then created what he claimed was the world's most glittery glitter, and a red called Redshift Red after the cosmic phenomenon, both explicitly available to all artists except Kapoor. The absurdity of artists feuding over access to colors highlighted something important. Artists cared deeply about their materials, about having access to the most extreme, the most vivid, the most expressive pigments possible. Red, as always, is worth fighting over. The reddest red matters, not just aesthetically, but territorially, competitively, emotionally. Even in the 21st century, even among contemporary artists, red remains something to claim, to defend, to battle over. Some things never change.
We've journeyed through red in artistic expression, seen how painters bankrupted themselves for it, how it carries emotion beyond words, how it sparked feuds and influenced movements. Red in art is never passive, never just decorative. It insists on meaning, demands response, refuses to be ignored. From art, we now turn to the everyday, to the subtle ways red influences your thoughts, your choices, your feelings without you even realizing it. Red works on you constantly, in stores, in sports, in romance, in moments of decision. Let's explore the psychology of red, the invisible ways this color shapes your life. Relax, breathe slowly, and discover how red is quietly affecting you right now. The red dress effect. Studies have consistently shown that people perceive those wearing red as more attractive and sexually desirable. In one famous experiment, men were shown photos of the same woman in shirts of different colors. When she wore red, men rated her as significantly more attractive and said they'd be willing to spend more money on a date with her. This effect works across cultures and appears to be partially evolutionary. Female primates often display red when they're fertile, and human males may unconsciously respond to red as a signal of reproductive availability. Women also perceive men in red as having higher status and being more attractive. So, when you choose to wear red, you're not just making a fashion choice. You're activating ancient circuits in other people's brains, triggering responses they're not consciously aware of. Red makes you visible, yes, but it also makes you desirable in ways that bypass rational thought entirely.
Red and appetite. Fast food restaurants love red. McDonald's, KFC, Burger King, Wendy's, Pizza Hut, In-N-Out. Notice a pattern? Red and yellow dominate fast food branding because these colors stimulate appetite and create a sense of urgency. Red increases heart rate slightly and activates hunger responses. It makes you want to eat more and eat faster. Restaurants that want quick table turnover use red in their decor for exactly this reason. Diners eat and leave, making room for the next customers. Fine dining restaurants, by contrast, typically avoid red. They use muted tones, blues, greens, colors that encourage leisurely meals and conversation. The color red on the walls quite literally affects how fast you chew, how much you order, how long you linger. Your appetite isn't just responding to food, it's responding to wavelengths of light, to calculated color choices designed to influence your behavior in ways you never consciously notice. Red cars and insurance rates. There's a persistent myth that red cars cost more to insure because they get more speeding tickets. Insurance companies will tell you this isn't true. They don't factor color into rates. But the myth persists for a reason. Red cars feel faster. Psychologically, red is associated with speed, danger, and excitement. People who buy red sports cars may be more likely to drive aggressively, but it's not the color causing the behavior, it's the personality type attracted to red cars. Interestingly, some studies suggest red cars are slightly more likely to be involved in accidents, but this may be because they're more visible and therefore more likely to be noticed and reported. Red doesn't make a car faster, but it makes the driver feel faster. It makes other drivers perceive the car as moving faster. Red changes the experience of driving and being near a vehicle, even though the actual physics remains identical. Color affects perception, and perception affects behavior, even when we insist we're being rational. The red pen effect. Teachers have traditionally used red pens to grade papers, marking errors and corrections. But research suggests this might not be ideal. Students who receive feedback in red ink show increased anxiety and perform worse on subsequent assignments compared to students who receive identical feedback in blue or green ink. The red marks activate associations with danger, failure, and criticism. Even when the feedback is constructive, the red color makes it feel more harsh, more negative. Some schools and teachers have switched to purple or green pens for this reason. It's remarkable. The exact same words, the exact same comments feel different depending on what color they're written in. Red carries such strong associations with error and warning that it can undermine the very learning it's meant to support. This is the double edge of red's power. It gets attention, but sometimes that attention comes with anxiety, stress, and shutdown rather than engagement. Red demands response, but not always the response you want. We've explored how red influences attraction, athletic performance, thinking styles, appetite, driving behavior, and even how you receive criticism. Red is working on you constantly in dozens of subtle ways, shaping decisions and feelings below the threshold of conscious awareness. In our next segment, we'll look at red in politics and power, how nations use red, what red means on flags and in movements, how this color has come to represent both authority and rebellion across the globe. But now, simply rest and consider how many red things you've encountered today, each one potentially influencing you in small ways. Red isn't just a color you see, it's a force that acts upon you. Red on national flags. More national flags feature red than any other color. China, the United States, Canada, the United Kingdom, Turkey, Japan, Switzerland, Morocco, Vietnam, Tunisia, Indonesia. The list goes on and on. Approximately 75% of the world's flags contain red. Why is red so universal in flags? Partly because red dyes were historically more readily available than other vibrant colors. Partly because red represents concepts that nations want to project: courage, sacrifice, bloodshed in defense of the homeland. Red on a flag says, "We have fought for this land. We will fight for it again." But different nations assign different meanings to their red. China's red represents communist revolution and the blood of martyrs. Canada's red represents the sacrifice of soldiers. Japan's red sun represents brightness and sincerity. Switzerland's red is simply their traditional color, dating back centuries. The same color waving on different flags tells different stories of identity and history. Red Cross and Red Crescent. In 1863, the International Committee of the Red Cross was founded to provide humanitarian aid during wartime. They chose a red cross on a white background as their symbol, an inversion of the Swiss flag, honoring the nationality of the organization's founder, Henri Dunant. The red was meant to be visible and recognizable to mark hospitals, ambulances, and medical personnel as neutral parties that should not be attacked. During conflicts, the Red Cross became a symbol of safety, a promise that this place, this person, is here to help, not harm. Later, the Red Crescent was adopted for use in Muslim-majority countries, and the red crystal was created as a neutral alternative. But all retained the red, because red is unmistakable, because red stands out on battlefields, because red can be seen through smoke and dust and chaos. In this context, red means the opposite of what it usually means. Not danger, not aggression, not stop, but sanctuary, help, healing. The same color in a different context, saving lives instead of taking them.
Red Power Movement. In the late 1960s and 70s, Native American activists adopted Red Power as a rallying cry for Indigenous rights and sovereignty. The American Indian movement used red flags and red imagery to draw attention to broken treaties, poverty on reservations, and cultural genocide. The term Red Power was inspired by the Black Power movement, but it also reclaimed a color that had been used as a racial slur, redskin. By embracing red, activists transformed it from a term of oppression to one of pride and resistance. Red became the color of Indigenous identity, of demands for justice, of refusal to be erased or assimilated. The occupation of Alcatraz Island, the trail of broken treaties, the standoff at Wounded Knee, all flew red flags and banners. Red represented blood spilled, yes, but also blood that still flows, cultures that still live, peoples who still fight. Red in the hands of the oppressed becomes red in the face of power, demanding recognition, demanding change. We've journeyed through red as a symbol of national identity, military might, political division, elite status, humanitarian aid, and Indigenous resistance. Red at the scale of nations and movements is never neutral. It always carries weight, always makes claims about who holds power and who seeks it. But for now, breathe and consider that red on a flag is not just decoration, it's declaration, its story, its identity. And you see it every day, waving above buildings, reminding you whose land you stand on, what values are supposedly shared, what history is claimed. We've traveled so far together, from caves painted 100,000 years ago to the flags of modern nations, from microscopic blood cells to distant galaxies, from ancient spiritual practices to psychological experiments. Now, let's complete our journey with reflections on red in your life, red in our shared future, and what this color means as we look forward. Close your eyes, breathe deeply, and let's finish this story of red. If you're still with us, and if you want us to cover a topic you like, leave a comment below. If you enjoy this video, consider giving it a like, and also subscribe to our channel so that you always know when the next video is released. By doing this, you help us not only grow, but continue to make content just like this. Thank you. Red roses, the universal language. Few symbols are as universally understood as the red rose. Across cultures, across continents, across centuries, red roses have meant love, passion, romance, and deep affection. The ancient Greeks associated red roses with Aphrodite. Romans scattered rose petals at celebrations. In medieval times, red roses became coded messages in courtship. Today, millions of red roses are sold every Valentine's Day, continuing a tradition that spans millennia. The red rose has become perhaps the clearest example of how color and nature combine to create meaning. The rose is beautiful, but it's the red that transforms it into a declaration of love. Interestingly, roses weren't always red. The original wild roses were mostly pink or white. Deep red roses are the result of thousands of years of selective breeding. Humanity literally created the red rose through patient cultivation because we needed a flower that could carry the weight of our deepest emotions. We made red roses because we needed them to exist. Red wine, fermented history. Red wine has been intertwined with human civilization for over 8,000 years. The red color comes from grape skins left in contact with the juice during fermentation. Those skins contain not just color, but tannins and compounds that give red wine its character, its ability to age, its complexity. Red wine has been sacred in religious ceremonies, a staple of daily meals, a marker of sophistication and culture. The ancient Greeks diluted their red wine with water and considered drinking it undiluted barbaric. Medieval monasteries perfected winemaking, believing red wine was the blood of Christ made manifest. That red liquid in the glass carries geography. You can taste the soil, the sun, the rain of wherever the grapes grew. Red wine is bottled time and place. And when you share red wine with others, you're participating in one of humanity's oldest social rituals, the communal drinking of something red that alters consciousness and deepens connection. Red wine is red culture, red history, red fellowship, all in a glass.
Red in digital spaces. In our digital age, red has taken on new meanings. The red notification badge on apps is carefully designed to create urgency and anxiety. That little red circle with a number in it triggers the same alert responses that helped our ancestors survive. Tech companies use red notifications because they know you cannot ignore them. You must check, must clear, must respond. Red unsubscribe links, red delete buttons, red error messages. Digital interfaces use red to signal that something requires immediate attention or that an action is dangerous and irreversible. Yet designers must be careful. Too much red in an interface creates stress and fatigue. Some apps now let you turn off red badges or change them to gentler colors, recognizing that the constant red alerts can harm mental health. We're learning, slowly, that the red that kept our ancestors alive can become oppressive in a world of constant digital demands. Red in digital space is double-edged, necessary for warnings, but potentially toxic in excess. The same as it's always been, really. Redwoods, the living giants. The coast redwoods of California are among Earth's tallest and oldest living beings. Some reach over 380 feet tall. Some have lived for more than 2,000 years. And they're called redwoods because of their bark, a rich reddish-brown that comes from tannins in the wood. That red bark is functional, not just beautiful. It's thick, fibrous, and fire-resistant. Redwoods have survived countless wildfires over millennia because their red bark protects them. They've been growing since before Christ walked the earth, standing silent and red through centuries of human history. To walk among redwoods is to feel small and temporary. These red giants were here before you, will be here after you. That red bark has seen civilizations rise and fall. In a way, the redwoods remind us that red exists on timescales far beyond human lifespans, that the red forest will outlast all our red flags and red cities and red empires. Red in nature is patient. Red in nature endures. Red Panda, misnomer and charm. Despite their name, red pandas aren't closely related to giant pandas. They're actually more closely related to weasels and raccoons. The name red panda came first when European naturalists first described them in 1825. The giant panda was discovered later and named for its resemblance to the already named red panda. Red pandas are remarkable creatures with rusty red fur found in the Himalayas and mountain forests of China. But they're endangered, with fewer than 10,000 left in the wild. Habitat loss and climate change threaten them. These small, red, tree-dwelling animals might not survive the century. It's a reminder that red in nature is often fragile. The bright red frog, the red bird, the red fox, they exist because ecosystems support them. When we destroy those ecosystems, the reds disappear. Every species we lose takes its particular shade of red with it, a color that will never exist again once that animal is gone. Red pandas are not just cute, they're irreplaceable expressions of red in living form. The future of red. What comes next? What does the future hold for red? Scientists are developing new red pigments and dyes that are more sustainable and less toxic than traditional options. Researchers are exploring how red light therapy might heal wounds, reduce inflammation, and treat various conditions. Architects are designing buildings that use red in psychologically informed ways. We're also discovering reds we've never seen before. Some animals can see wavelengths of red that humans cannot. New imaging technologies reveal red structures in nature invisible to our eyes. As we explore other planets, we might find forms of red we cannot yet imagine. Minerals, skies, life forms expressing red in alien ways. Red will continue to evolve with us. It will take on new meanings, serve new purposes, appear in contexts we can't predict. But its fundamental power, its visibility, its emotional resonance, its deep connection to human consciousness, that will remain. Red is ancient, but red is not finished. Red is still being written.
Red in your life right now. Think about the red things you've encountered today. Perhaps you stopped at a red traffic light, keeping you safe. Perhaps you saw a red logo influencing your choices in ways you didn't notice. Perhaps someone wore red and you found them more attractive without knowing why. Red is working in your life constantly. It's in the strawberries you eat, the wine you drink, the notifications on your phone. It's in your blood, flowing through you with every heartbeat. It's in sunsets you've watched, flags you've saluted, roses you've given or received. You are surrounded by red. You are made of red. You respond to red in ways both conscious and unconscious, both chosen and involuntary. Red has been part of the human story since before we were fully human, and it will be part of our story as long as we exist. The reds yet to come. We've explored many facts about red in depth, but there are so many more reds. The red of autumn leaves falling, red coral reefs beneath tropical seas, red garnets and rubies hidden in the earth, red fire engines racing to emergencies, red Christmas decorations celebrating winter holidays, red graduation robes marking achievement, red sports cars that make heads turn, red velvet curtains opening on stages, red LED lights in dark rooms, red ink in ancient manuscripts, red poppies growing in former battlefields, symbols of remembrance, red chili peppers burning on the tongue, red clay tennis courts at Roland Garros, red double-decker buses in London, red lanterns lighting streets during festivals, red paint on barns in rural America, red fox pelts glistening in snow, red warning lights on towers piercing night skies, red embers glowing in dying fires, red maple syrup dripping from trees, red capes in bullfighting rings, red stamps approving documents, red ribbons tied as bookmarks, red bicycle lights signaling in darkness, red stickers placed by teachers for good work, red tulips standing in spring gardens, red voting buttons in parliament chambers, red brick buildings that have stood for centuries, red soil in distant deserts, red dyes in textiles from around the world. And there are personal reds, the red of a childhood blanket you loved, the red of your first bicycle, the red of a favorite sweater, the red of a door you've walked through 1,000 times, the red of a car that took you on adventures, the red of someone's hair who made you feel something, the red of a sunset you watched with a person you'll never forget. Your life is full of reds, each one carrying meaning, each one a small story, each one connecting you to this color that has threaded through human existence for 100,000 years. We've completed our journey through many facts about the color red, from the caves of our ancestors to the virtual realities of our future. We've seen red as pigment and paint, as blood and wine, as warning and welcome, as danger and love, as power and resistance. Red is the first color we named, the color in our veins, the color of distant stars and dying suns, the color that makes us hungry, makes us passionate, makes us stop at intersections, the color of revolutions and roses, the color that artists have bankrupted themselves to achieve and that nature displays in infinite variations. Red is never neutral. Red is never passive. Red insists on meaning, demands response, refuses to be ignored. As you drift now towards sleep,
Let these stories of the color red settle softly in your mind. Tomorrow, when you see red in the world around you, in the sky, in objects, in moments of your day, perhaps you'll notice it differently. Perhaps you'll see not just a color, but the centuries of meaning, the natural wonders, the human connections that color carries. If you've enjoyed this journey, there are more colors waiting for you in the Colors of Life series. Each one has its own story to tell, its own secrets to share, its own way of helping you find peace at the end of the day. But for now, simply rest, let go completely, and know that the color red, like all colors, will be there when you wake, painting your world, connecting you to something larger, reminding you of the beauty that exists in the simplest things. Thank you for spending this time with me. Sleep well and dream in color.
Thanks for watching, and as always, if you want us to cover a topic you like, leave a comment below. If you enjoy this video, consider giving it a like, and also subscribe to our channel so that you always know when the next video is released. By doing this, you help us not only grow, but continue to make content just like this. Thank you.